And we are live. Welcome back to, I believe it's episode 14 of season 5 on the
Wow,
Mecca of
that's even
Banter.
to think about. Now that I'm
Yeah,
noticing.
14 episodes. 14 episodes doesn't feel like a lot, but 5 seasons in is nuts, or 4 and 14 episodes now. But welcome to the Mecha of Banter podcast. My name is Winks. I'll be your host today, or co-host rather. It's just two of us today. Me and Mr. Nicky Hayflinger are tag teaming today's episode, so we'll kind of be going more back and forth than having a traditional podcast host. But yeah, Nick, what's up, brother?
You know, I'm here so I don't get fined. Of the podcasts that I've made in the last couple of weeks, I feel like this is the one that I probably should have skipped out on. But hey, I do like the duo pods. I had one last week with Hoover, and like you were kind of saying before, they kind of just flow a little bit easier because it is kind of a co-host. You don't have to interject when you think you need to interject. It kind of just goes a little bit smoother. I do want to bring up the only good thing that happened this weekend. Well, obviously there was a couple of good things, but in the sports world, my boy Lando Norris is world champion of the world. Big shout out to him. Was super pumped to see him lift that trophy on Sunday. It honestly made my weekend because Chelsea almost tried to ruin it. So I'm happy at least one of the things that I support or people that I support pulled out a victory. So shout out to Lando on that one. But we're not here for that. We're here to talk about soccer, and I'm happy to be here with you, Winks. I think it's going to be a spicy episode. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I meant to text you yesterday after I saw that because it was all over my timeline, and you're one of the few dudes in my life that I know follows F1 religiously. So congrats on that. I know how big of a fan you are of his. But yeah, we had a lot going on last week. You know,
Yeah.
between the World Cup draw, which we'll probably hit on first, and then I think the majority of Prem teams had two matches. Uh,
The midweek games for the Prem always throw a little like curveball into schedule.
It is because unless I pay too much attention to the schedule ahead of time, I just assume it's, a Carabao Cup game or Champions League, Europa League, Conference League,
Yep.
whatever. And yeah, it took me a second because I had, gotten to work that day and then, everybody was talking about the draws on Tuesday, I think it was. And I was like, oh crap, this is a league game. This isn't, one of those other ones. So,
I have
no,
Bob on my like main screen, and it literally was like Chelsea plays on Wednesday, and I was like, "What?" And I like clicked on it, and I was like, "What
sick.
the hell?" And I was like, "Great, we get 2 games this week." So
Yeah. Well, I am going to start us off here. I want to dive into these World Cup draws for this year. As we know,
yeah,
World Cup is very quickly approaching here in Mexico, United States, and Canada. And so I want to run through, and I'll just rattle these off real quick, and then we can kind of go group by group, but focusing on the United States final
yeah.
group drawing more specifically.
Before you do that, I do want to just say before we talk about the teams in the actual group, the presentation was awful.
Dude,
Was horrendous.
Kevin Hart announced the musicians that did sort of that performance, talking about, how popular they are and how long they've been around. And I had no idea who it was. I feel like it wasn't a good embodiment of the music in this country. If we were going to go gimmicky and, full on Americanize this thing, I think that, bringing Snoop out would have, like they did for the Super Bowl, like
Yeah.
pre-game concert, would have been insane. I think there's a lot of ways they could have gone about that.
I just think there was a lot of misses on it. Like it wasn't. It didn't look like a professionally ran presentation, and I think it was a bad representation of kind of the football. Well, honestly, I think it's accurate. It kind of shows the state of where the MLS is and kind of how much we care about soccer/football. But I was, before we even talk about that, I was just very disappointed in the presentation, and it took so long for them to even draw and show us what the groups were. I was like, come on.
I know. No, I feel like we waited around for a long time. But even though it took as long as it did, I think the United States made it out pretty dang good. I don't know that it could have gotten much better. That fourth team that we got that we'll talk about, or playoff thereof, that we're waiting to hear about, or for waiting for it to finish. That could probably have been a hair better, but I think we made out pretty good. So let's dive into these. Group A. So for those who don't understand, the host country automatically gets a spot in Pot A, which is
huge for us.
Huge, because that's considered the top teams in the tournament. They spread it out this way, and even though it can be confusing, they spread it out this way so that one group doesn't have an Argentina, Germany, Portugal, etc., like Croatia, whoever, the top four teams
at the end.
100%. So Group A, Mexico was the Pot A team because they're also a host country. So it'll be US, Mexico, and Canada. But Mexico led off Group A, followed by South Africa, Korea, and a playoff that the site currently doesn't have the team listed on. But imagine it'll probably be a bottom tier team. I see Mexico and Korea making it out of this just straight off the bat.
Yeah, I think Mexico's very happy with this draw, like ecstatic almost. I could see that as well. Also, like, you never know about South Africa. I mean, I feel like they could maybe surprise us. You never know. But I think Mexico is going to have some fun in this group. Also, being a host country, I think they'll be fine.
Those games in Mexico City and the other host cities down there. Not sure what they are off the top of my head, but I think they're going to be fire. Just the crowd down there. And then Group B, Canada, another host country, got the Pot A draw. So they are awaiting a European playoff, and then they have Qatar and Switzerland. So probably would have been more helpful for me to have found a site that had the playoffs pulled up. But assuming that most of these playoff teams aren't going to be teams that move on, it's really Canada and Switzerland in this group.
Yeah.
Similarly to Group A, I think Mexico and Canada are both going to, really enjoy their groups and have a good opportunity to make it out. I think all three host countries have a really good opportunity to make it out and should, which would be pretty cool to see. But
I agree with you. I think all three of the host countries really looked out with their groups. And I think, once again, Canada is very happy with this group. And I'm trying to pull up the play-in teams for us. So we have those.
Well, while we do that, just to keep things moving, Group C, I think, is a pretty good group. Maybe one of the toughest groups, in my opinion. But we have Brazil, Morocco, Scotland, and Haiti.
Yeah, I like this group a lot.
I think Scotland was originally going to be one of my dark horse teams, just knowing how they made it into the World Cup, knowing the kind of talent they have on their team right now, knowing that a few of their players are, some of the best in the world at their positions. I think it sucks that they got put in a group with Morocco and Brazil. I still think they have a chance. I think Brazil is an easy pass, and then that second group is going to, that second spot is going to come down to that Morocco-Scotland head-to-head.
Agreed. I also think I'm interested to see Brazil in this World Cup. I wouldn't be shocked if, like, Morocco and Scotland do something crazy here. Like, I could almost see them advancing over. I'm not calling that now, but, like, I think Brazil is definitely not just a shoe-in to win this group. And I think Morocco and Scotland, the way they play, it's like very physical, and I think it offsets Brazil. And I'm really intrigued with how this group's going to finish, because it could be Brazil finds a groove, but I could also see a crazy mix-up with this one.
We saw what they did at the last World Cup, and
yep.
I think that's the beauty of this is, this isn't. Yes, it's probably one of the groups of death as far as heavyweights in there.
Yeah.
But every team that makes this World Cup has some sort of quality, and you can't really take games off. You can't assume that you're going to roll over these teams, because for a lot of them, they don't make the World Cup very often. They have nothing to lose. And I think sometimes, like we saw with Brazil last year, the expectations can, you know, take over and can hurt you in the long run. But Group D, I think the one that we want to talk about the most is the United States group. The U.S. drew Paraguay, Australia, and then a playoff that will most likely be Turkey. This is interesting. I think a lot of pundits called this a dream draw or the most favorable group that the United States could have possibly gotten. I think Turkey's going to be dangerous. I think this is a very winnable group, though. And I think on top of that, us having home field advantage matters a whole lot. I'm excited to see more American fans at these World Cup games, familiar conditions, and similar to Qatar last World Cup, just how having that home field advantage can sort of give us a psychological edge, especially early in the group stage, because I think first goal, first and foremost, needs to be to make it out of the group. Anything can happen when we get out of there, but we need to make it out of the first group.
Yeah, I have so many things on this one because I agree with what you were saying in a lot of the takes on, like, we got a very favorable draw, but I also am scared with the inexperience that our team has playing together. I do think I obviously would have not done it this way and waited this long to finally get them all together to play, because I think we're pretty much getting to crunch time. I mean, it's been crunch time for a while for getting us prepped for this World Cup, and so the fact that we still haven't really even seen our 11 play in a minute is concerning to me. But I do think this will help, because these games we're not playing a Portugal. We're not playing one of those teams where we're going to have to like sit in and play a lineup that we may not want to normally play. So like, I think the fact that we're going to be able to play the dogs for all of these games, get the experience under their belts, playing in the World Cup together, playing it in hometown, I think is going to be good. I agree with you. Getting out of the group is very important, but I also think with this draw, we need to win. Like, I think so many times we've gotten out of the group and then we've been paired with a powerhouse and we just get absolutely spanked. And I want us to actually win the group so that we have a decent draw going out. Obviously, I think once you make it out of the group, every team is pretty good. So no matter who you get is going to be decent. But I think if we win, we have the best chance of setting us up for success, unless something crazy happens, like a Brazil or like one of those teams ends up second and we have to face one of those powerhouses then. But I do want us to win the group, because I think it'll set us up for the next rounds. And those are the rounds that we've never seen. And that's what I think the talent that we have now can do. So I'm hoping we at least make the next, like, into the second round after the group stage is what my hope is.
Yeah, I don't see why we can't. I think
Paraguay and yes, they're good sides, but like I said, if we want to be who we want to be, we need to beat those guys.
They're beatable.
Yes.
And yeah, I think like what you mentioned, one of our biggest hurdles as a nation is going to be figuring out that starting 11 and, praying to God that we don't send 3 different lineups out there for these 3 games. And leading up to then, that we figure out what that 11 is and give them, more than just the practice time prior to the World Cup to, figure it out.
That's what it seems like, though, unless we're bringing some fucking awful lineups to the World Cup. But I seriously, I don't think, like, I don't think anyone on our podcast could name the starting 11 for the U.S. men's national team right now. Like,
nope. And we all could name a starting 11, and we'd all probably be right at some point,
or wrong. Like, and all of ours would be different. That's like, I hate that that's a thing. Like, I feel like a lot of the bigger countries that have teams that were probably fighting for the World Cup trophy, like, they're starting 11. Like, everyone could probably go through their list and pick out who's going to start for them. And I don't know if we can do that. And the fact that we haven't seen them is stressing me out.
I feel that. Well, moving on, we'll roll through the rest of these and get into the Prem. Group E is Germany, Ecuador, Ivory Coast, and Curacao.
I think Germany and Ecuador.
I do too. That screams those two teams.
I think Germany's going to be good, but I always say that and they always fail me. That also could be the German in me.
I feel that. I'm like 75% German too. So it's I don't see how those two don't make it out of here though. Group F, we have another playoff, but outside of that we have Netherlands, Japan, and Tunisia. I think Netherlands are going to be solid per usual.
I
I'm
always think
interested to
Japan's
see.
good too.
Yeah, they are. They always show up to the World Cup.
Pretty sure they just beat us recently. It might not have been recently, but we had a friendly against Japan. I'm pretty sure we lost to them. So
That's a good sign. But I imagine the Dutch make it through cleanly. We'll see what their fourth.
they're another team that I'm really intrigued to see how well they do because I think they're pretty good.
I think they were my dark horse last year, if I remember correctly. And we'll do all these predictions again. You know, I know we did this 4 years ago, but we all picked our winner. You know, golden boot, golden glove.
This is the way too early predictions.
Yeah. I need to wait a little bit longer though to see what these lineups are going to be like before I make my dark horse decision fully. Group G, Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. This might be one of the weaker groups as well. I could see any of these four teams somehow squeezing out a spot, in my opinion.
Egypt and Belgium and Mo Salah just going on a tear.
I mean, at this point, who knows if he has the ability to do that anymore? And I know we'll touch on that.
It's the only game time he's going to see. That's what I'm saying.
That's fair. But I mean, in the game time he has seen at Liverpool this season, he hasn't done what he did last year. And I feel like Liverpool as a whole is just kind of trying to figure that out. Table that, though. We'll talk about that. Group H, Spain, Cabo Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. Spain and Uruguay handily. I don't think there's any need to touch on that anymore. Group I is France, Senegal, Norway, and then another playoff.
I think this
might be the group of death.
I was waiting for this, but I truly think this one's the group of death because I think Senegal and Norway are both very good sides, or not very good. I mean, they're good of like the B level almost teams. Like I think they have players that can score goals on us or on anyone, in my opinion. Obviously, Holland with Norway, or no.
Yes.
Am I? Okay. For a split second, I thought he was Denmark, and then I stopped. But no.
I mean, they'll have Odegaard, Holland.
But yeah, both of those teams have goal scorers that can put the ball in the back of the net. Yeah. So I truly think that this one could be a coin flip. Also, France, obviously, they're not defending, but they've won a World Cup in the last decade. So they're always a team that can.
And we're in the World Cup final 4 years ago. So I feel like they're currently the favorite, just with an aging Lionel Messi. I think, they're the favorite right now. I need to look at the lines to see what the futures are right now and maybe sprinkle a couple early predictions. But Group J, Argentina. We also have Algeria, Austria, and Jordan.
This one's the weakest group besides Argentina, obviously.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those. Don't see Jordan making it out of this group, so it'll probably come down to Algeria and Austria. We now that Mahrez is pretty much done playing, I'd have to double check some lineups to see
who even some of these teams have.
Yeah, some of the bigger names at least that I'm sure I'm forgetting about, but Argentina handles that group. Group K, we have Portugal, Colombia, a playoff team, and Uzbekistan.
This is another good one. I like Portugal and Colombia.
Yeah, I think so too. And then last but not least, we have England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. I think that's a great group.
Yeah, I think Ghana might do something funny.
I'm here for it. Croatia historically is strong. England's, we say this every World Cup, but they look like they might be the strongest they've been. Um, can they do anything with that though? I think is what it comes down to, and we'll see.
I might make an early call here, and I think England's winning the World Cup.
Wow. Well, you and every other English person, English national, every single World Cup.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, this is one of the few years I've even thought of that. Like the last couple of years, I've always had other teams that I've been like, I think these guys may pull it out, but I truly think this could be their year. I think a lot of people are talking and doubting, and I think finally this could be the switch. We'll see though. I also think they just hate Americans, so they're like playing on American soil. They're gonna be like, all right, fuck these guys.
Yeah. Well, that is sort of a quick look into the World Cup draws. I know that when we have more boys on here, we'll dive a little bit deeper in, especially as we get closer. Hopefully we'll have some cool things in the works as we approach the 2026 World
I also
Cup.
think a couple of us are going to games in Kansas City, so
Yeah, I know you and Hoove are both going to, which one was it? And I think Dobes will probably be at a handful of them via DraftKings, but
it's funny. It's Austria and Algeria.
yeah.
So
Start
yeah,
doing your research now.
I know.
I think going to any game, regardless, is going to be
100%. And we're gonna like just being Kansas City for the weekend. Like I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Watching some of the games, some of the bars down there is gonna be fun.
Fun city.
Party.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into the Prem because we have a ton of games to get through. We're not going to spend a ton of time on all of them, but there's just some stuff we want to highlight. Kicking off the week, we had Spurs, Newcastle tying 2-2. Spursy fashion, if you will, but one bright spot in this game was the Romero bike.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Disgusting.
Honestly, this game was freaking spicy as shit. Romero scoring both of their goals to tie it late, I think was electric. Something with Spurs this year, and just they always make games interesting. Or like, I feel like a lot of teams, some teams are boring to watch, Arsenal, but like some teams, it's just always going to be spicy. And I think Tottenham, you're always in for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hate both of these teams with a passion, so a 2-2 draw is, almost best case scenario.
Yeah, for the table, I was thrilled.
Yeah. But Romero, bicycle kick, pretty neat. You don't see that too often from a center back.
He's kind of a freak athlete.
He is. And if I had to pick one of their center backs to score a bike, it probably would have been Mickey, not even Romero. So good on him. If you haven't seen the highlight of it, highly suggest you go and watch it. It was disgusting. But moving on, we have Arsenal beats Brentford 2-0. Not a whole lot to say here either. We scored pretty early on in the game and sort of held it down from there. Their keeper played outstanding. And, in extra time, we sealed the deal and made it 2-0. I think one thing I want to mention, and I'll talk about it in the next game specifically, is one of the things that I think hurt us was there have been times this season where we've captured a lead and we've just sat back. And I've seen clear differences in those games when we do go up and choose to continue to press and push the ball forward and try and create more chances versus, being content with that one goal. We've seen it happen to us. We've seen it happen to every team in the Prem at some point. But I think, when we go from scoring a goal to very sporadic chances outside of the early phases of the game and, set pieces, the time between our very good chances are getting too few and far between. But at that time, that game restored a 5-point lead in the table, which, hindsight's 2020, but looking ahead, we really needed that win against Brentford. And I think, this continues to build that mindset that I've been talking about with Arsenal all year, is that, we need to win the games we're supposed to win despite not having, two healthy full-time center backs. We need to, put a clean sheet on the board. We need to beat the teams that we're supposed to beat on paper. Injuries and squad rotations are going to happen. So, what do you do when you do have injuries and you're forced to make squad rotations that aren't advantageous? Mikel Merino continues to shine up front.
That was literally going to be the only thing I had to say is Marino is by far your best striker, and I think he proved it once again. And I think the injuries was probably the best thing that happened to you guys, because you got to figure out that he is the best striker on your team.
On that side of the ball, yes. And I know we'll talk about our weekend match as well, but that's where the injuries did not help us. All to say, though, great game on our front tactically. We looked good despite sitting back too much, but we looked very solid defensively despite, some of the absences that we had, and keeping Brentford to virtually no, clear chances on net, one shot on target, I think. So the organization, the focus was there. I think that, we have to continue to win these games and look for ways to improve little by little. So moving forward.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we do. Leeds United.
No.
3-1.
Leeds
over
Chelsea.
Chelsea. Yes.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying Leeds versus United. I was like, no. What?
3-1. What happened, dude?
The December Chelsea. That's what happened. It happens every year for the past couple of years. We just absolutely shit a brick when we need to not be doing that. I obviously, with DraftKings being legal now in Missouri, the easiest bet that I placed during this game was for both teams to score. I saw the lineup that we came out with, and the back four was a back four that I knew would leak goals. We started, hold up, I'm pulling it up right now. I'm pretty sure it was Badius, Shield. We had 3 center backs playing in our back four. And the moment I saw that, I knew it wasn't going to be good. Obviously, offensively, I thought we would be fine. Delap, I'm not completely sold on. Another thing I'm not sold on at all is João Pedro playing the 10. I think he should stay at our striker position. I think he did a good job when he's played there. I also think we found out that Enzo Fernandez has not played a defensive center mid role in a little bit, and he was kind of lost there for a little bit. He's kind of been playing more advanced, and we've had Caicedo and usually a Santos or a Reece James or someone kind of fill in that holding position for him in the midfield. So I think he definitely stood out like a sore thumb in this game. He was kind of lost out there. But yeah, our back four was Cucurella, Badius, Shield, Tosin, and Chalobah. Tosin obviously costing us a goal when I thought we were kind of making a little bit of comeback, but it didn't go well. I will say Cole Palmer coming on, I was super happy to see him at least come onto the pitch. I know I'm probably going to get stick, and a bunch of Chelsea fans are probably going to get stick about how his performance was. By no means did he do great, but I think he's still trying to kind of get into the Premier League speed again.
He's played 5 games this season.
Yeah, it's like this is his first game back in a very long time.
Wasn't even full minutes either.
No, but he played 30, so like you expect him to come in and at least have an impact. He was in the right positions. He should have scored, honestly. He had 2 chances that he should have buried, and I think would have drastically changed the outcome of this game. There was a moment in the game where I truly thought we were going to come back, and the momentum was swinging our way. But like I said, the late goal by Calvert-Lewin on the mistake completely ruined that entire thing for us. But yeah, I don't really have much to talk about this one. This one hurt a lot for me. I think we were kind of making a push towards the top of the table, and this one just kind of shat on that dream.
Yeah, I just looked up his player profile real quick, and I see a fairly clear correlation between his performance and the amount of minutes he plays. There's one outlier, but for the most part, his rating is higher the more minutes he plays. I feel like the more comfortable he's able to get in a game for the most part.
He's such a like build player. Like it takes once he gets into the match and he starts to find the pace and find out where the pocket is for him.
And I
I
think that's why last year we saw him do what he did because he was playing 90 minutes every game and
that's
he was riding that momentum versus, playing 60 minutes or playing 30 minutes, then he took the game off against us and then he came back and played 60, the following one. It's tough for any player to do it,
yeah.
but being the kind of player he is, the caliber of player he is, you would expect a little more.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of get into the next game, but I can kind of talk about it a little bit now. I think last year Cole Palmer, we needed him a lot and he carried us and he played a certain way that was needed for us at the time. And I think now we are playing a completely different style of football with the talent that we have. And I'm interested because I think it stood out in the Bournemouth game of how it's going to mesh with some of these guys because I think Cole back then had to do a lot on his own and he was very patient on the ball and was like would pretty much find the perfect pass instead of playing quick. But I think now we're at a point where our runs are happening very quickly and we have wingers who are getting in behind people a lot faster and we need to find those passes earlier on. So I'm really intrigued to see how he continues to mesh with this side because I think in the Bournemouth game it didn't go well.
All right. Well, thankfully you guys didn't have a lot of time to, worry about that game.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what happened next, but first I want to touch very quickly on the Liverpool draw against Sunderland 1-1. Mo Salah does not play again, and Szoboszlai, instead of playing right back, moves up to right wing. Isak plays a majority of the game, drops a stinker. Wirtz is on a 0013, I think, at this point, 13 or 14. Butch is currently Arnie Slot out as of about 3 weeks ago. He's been saying that. I don't know if he saw into the future, but things are not getting any better over at Liverpool. We've seen what Sunderland have done to big teams this year.
I'll say Sunderland's not a bad side.
No.
They're really not. Literally going into this game, this was another. Sorry, we're talking about bets again now, but this was another easy. Both teams are going to score. Like the moment I think one of you guys sent it in, I was like, yeah, that's an easy cash. So both these teams like Sunderland's a good side right now, and Liverpool's leaking goals, and it's just that matchup that I knew was going to happen something spicy. I almost thought they had it to be honest. Like I thought, I mean, obviously they scored in the 81st, but like leading up to that goal, I thought they were in the clear for it. It also was an own goal on Wirtz's shot, but
yeah, still it doesn't count. Still waiting on that. But following that, we have United West Ham, another draw, 1-1. Similar to their game today, this was a must-win for United.
I feel like all United's games right now are must-wins because they literally are only playing in one competition, and it's the only time they're able to get results / see any improvement in their side. So I think every game for them is super important. So I almost think they're kind of it's a weird balance of like it's a benefit and also a disadvantage. Like it's a disadvantage to always be under that pressure, but it's also like an advantage of like that's all you have to focus on. Like each week in training, that's all you have to prepare for. That's all like you can focus on that team. Like I'm imagining some of our teams who are playing at the weekend, they're having to think about Barcelona or whoever, and then they play a Premier League team in 2 days. So like the fact that they get an entire week in and week out to train for each side, like I think is a massive advantage for them, and it makes these games almost must wins because they have all this time to kind of prep for it.
No, it is. And I think even more so, when we look at injuries across the Prem right now, or at least across the Big Six, United only missing their extra time striker and Harry Maguire and their starting striker who hasn't done shit in Sesko, you'd expect more. And I think we saw a lot more today being Monday, December 8th. But Cunha's first game back,
I
since
think it was a response to this game. Like, I
100%.
really do.
But they just can't afford to have these games where they're forced to have a response game. They need to put together good performance, good performance, good performance back to back if they want a shot at Europe next year. And they can't be relying on their left wing back to score the only goal in a game against one of the worst teams in the Premier League. Cunha was underwhelming. Xerxes was underwhelming. Bruno did Bruno things, but I hate that they play a 5-back. I don't know. I don't like anything about United, and I don't mean that in a banter way. I mean as a football watcher, I just don't like anything that they're doing right now. And I guess they did it right, or I guess it's more of a 3-4-2-1 that they're playing, but they have Ahmad and Delo as, wing backs, and I just don't like their ability to stretch the field in that way. And when they are, it's Cunha's going 1-on-2 and Buemo's going 1-on-2, and Xerxes trying to find his way up there, but he's just not it. So they've got some stuff to figure out, and it seems like they did as of today, which I know we'll touch on as well. But I think one of the games that Nikki, you, and everybody else who's not here was waiting to hear about was the 18-game unbeaten streak by the Arsenal ending over the weekend, early on Saturday morning. We lost 2-1 to the second place team in the Prem right now, whoop-de-doo, Aston Villa.
You wouldn't frame it like that, you little
No.
second place team in the Prem.
No. From a tactical point of view, I feel like this match revealed a lot of cracks in our team, and I think part of that is in our defense under, the instability of having three full-time center backs hurt. Consistency, which up until now, minus the second game of the season, we've seen a lot of. And something that I talked about last game was in-game management under pressure. I think that it was very winnable. I think, we let it slip away. But, I touched on it earlier. We came out in the second half of this game firing. Arteta had lit a fire under their ass at halftime, and we came out and we showed character. And Trossard, who's just been so good all year for us, equalizing. We didn't panic. We reacted. That goal specifically was pure open play beauty. We had a great rebuild, movement, transition, even when Villa sat deep, which I know, we've had a lot of problems with scoring tons of goals against when other teams sit deep against us. But I think what went wrong was our center back pairing wasn't at full strength. We had Timber in the back at that game with Nkappi, and the goal that they scored in extra time. I know that Chelsea was playing at the same time, so I'm not sure if you watched it, but it was pure chaos. It was one of those goals that the ball was just bouncing around right in front of the net.
Well,
and
their build up beforehand was nice, but you're right. It was definitely just chaos in the box once it got.
It was just like a late, defensive lapse.
I will say one of the things that I did see was Arsenal players' reactions after when it went in, and every single one dropped to their knees in agony, and I was just like, "Damn, that sucks." Because you're right, dominating probably majority of the second half for them to lose on a last minute chaos goal like that's kind of heartbreaking.
And that shit fucking happens, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think, we came out very strong, and then when we scored, we dominated in a way, but I think we sat back more while dominating, and sitting back and not pressing, not going for more, big chances. I think that allows the other team, and Villa in this case, to build momentum. And yes, the goal, sprung from a scramble at the end of it, but we also can't be relying on these individual moments like Trossard's goal. We didn't do much else consistently after that. And, I just worry that in some of these games against, top 6 clubs that we're going to rely too big on these chances. One thing I do want to note, though, is despite losing this game, we've lost 2 games before Christmas. That's a big deal. The year that, or I guess last year, I think JP mentioned it. I don't quote him often, but Liverpool lost 9 games last year and they won the league. So saying that we're slipping, not even close. We'll have our defensive strength back, but I think in a specific game under a microscope, the one game that we don't have what we've been known for doing the best at this year, which is, having a lockdown defense. The one game that we don't have that, we see what happens. This month, though, we get a lot of players back that we need back, and we're going to get that depth back that I've mentioned so many times this year. We, in my opinion, have the best depth in the Premier League. When that depth goes away and we're forced to play a wing back as a center back, regardless of if he plays center back occasionally for his national team, that's not where he's been playing in this system, the entire year. So that, in addition to our backup center back that has played the least time out of the 2 backup center backs, it's recipe for not what we're used to seeing from Arsenal. And credit to Aston Villa, like they're a good team. They're in second place for a reason. We just have to, move past it and move onward. I think they're in third. Okay, I knew it was second or third, but either way, I think on top of that, we had played like 6 or 7 games in the last 3 weeks between, and that's not to say that other teams haven't, but I think that this stretch of a lot of games in a short amount of time is going to have an effect on anybody for sure. And Calafiori's, 5 yellow cards in the Prem, we're missing some players. But that's no excuse. I know that we have the talent to still beat Villa despite being out those players. I just expected, a little bit more. But it's not the worst, well, I guess it is the worst thing that could have happened to us not getting any points from it. Fuck. But
all I have to say is it's all your fault.
It is. It's all my fault.
You want to know why?
Why is that?
Because on November 3rd, you stated that there was a chance that Arsenal was going to break the Chelsea's goals allowed record in the Prem. And since you've said that, you've played 6 games and allowed 7 goals.
That's nuts.
So that's on you.
Yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I told you
5, 6, 7. Yeah. So now we're at 10 allowed, and we have to give up. We can't let up. Yeah. Well,
you jinxed the shit out of him, brother.
You know what?
Thank you for doing it. I told you on that episode.
You guys wanted some hot takes, and that's the price you pay
for. Oh, now it's a hot take. Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
I do think that's hilarious, though. Sorry.
That's my luck. That's why, when it comes to betting or anything else too, I never tell anybody what I'm doing, because as soon as I speak it into existence, it goes away. But we're going to move on from that game into another really, really fun game. Chelsea with another 1 point against the very strong side of Bournemouth. Is it basically the same thing?
Yeah, I don't have excuses for this one. We played very conservative. I don't think we had crazy amounts of chances where I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to win this game. It was very back and forth. I liked the lineup going into this game. For some reason, Maresca likes Garnacho. I still am not fully sold on him. Delop's injury obviously hurt us because we had to bring on Gyu, who I thought played pretty well for being subbed on into this game. I want to give a huge, as a center back who loved picking up strikers in my day and just absolutely shithousing them the entire game. I'm gonna pronounce his freaking name wrong, but the center back for Bournemouth, Senesi, absolutely balled. He got taken off in the 62nd because of an injury, but he was a menace for Delap. I think so Delap hurt his shoulder because him and Sense, whatever his name is, got into a tussle during a corner. So obviously I don't love him for that because he's injuring my strikers, but I don't think it was necessarily his fault. It was just kind of a little, they got tangled up, and then the way he fell down was kind of not good for his shoulder. But I thought he had a hell of a performance. As a former center back myself, I just love to see that stuff. I hate that it was against our side. I already mentioned it before. I was very underwhelmed with Cole Palmer's performance. He kind of looked out of place, and I thought he was a little bit slow on the ball. Neto was definitely getting frustrated with him. He was making a lot of runs where I think he could have found him earlier. Even if I'm being honest, Garnacho was making some pretty good runs that I think Cole could have found some through balls that he decided not to play and held onto the ball for a little bit longer. Also, Esteval coming on, I was expecting him to do something and light a spark in our team, and I don't think he did. I hope this isn't turning into a we need Caicedo type of situation, but I was definitely not happy with this performance. This isn't taking anything away from Bournemouth because I think they're not a bad side. They were without Tyler Adams, so I thought maybe the midfield would be a little bit easier for us to
more open
control, but I don't think that was the case. I think this would have been a huge win for us. I think it was kind of a must win if we wanted to continue to fight for a chance at the title. So I think we've put ourselves in a situation where a top 4 finish is kind of almost needed now. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I was not happy with this performance at all. I think Sanchez is once again having himself a good game. So maybe next game it's going to be a disaster.
That's a couple good games in a row. What the hell is going on with him, man?
Honestly, that's on brand. Winks, he'll have 5 phenomenal games, and then like the 6th or 7th game, it's just a red card or something absolutely horrendous. Luckily for him, the biggest mistake we had over the last week was Tosin's playback to him, which wasn't his fault. But I do see another mistake to him in the future. Of course, I don't want to be wishing that upon my goalie, but that's just the reality when you have Sanchez in your net.
It's a reverse casting curse though, because I cursed the the amount of goals we were letting up, and you're reversing it by saying
absolutely. And we have Everton next in the Prem, and we also have Atalanta midweek in the Champions League. So I'm hoping we can find some form in those 2 games. But I do think that December's Chelsea is 100% a thing because for some reason we do not perform well in the month of December. And that sounds like a bunch of excuses, and I hate that I'm having to do that.
Hey, it's the Chelsea way,
Oh, eat shit, bitch. You're going to get second again. Sorry.
Rare.
I going back, and sorry we're backtracking again, but the Villa Arsenal game, I was thinking about this and almost texted it in the group message. An Arsenal loss for me is almost as good as a Chelsea win. Like, when you guys lose, I am so fucking happy. Like, I'm
sorry you feel that way. It
almost makes my day.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
When you guys lost, it was like, hell yes. My day is fantastic.
I feel like it's that way across the board for all of our friends. They'd, they're the easiest hate watch.
Yeah.
But whatever. Take it with a grain of salt,
Yeah, I can't really.
They say
in 2 games, so I'll shut my mouth.
They say not to care about the opinions of those you would never ask advice from. So you can all.
Oh.
Ida, you know what?
Well, if you ever need advice on winning a European trophy, let me know.
I'll ask someone that's done it a little more recently. But you got it,
2021?
Sister. What is that? It's about to be 5 years ago.
Okay, you want to talk? been never.
Exactly. No, hey, yeah, shut up. Moving on. Spurs beat Brentford 2-0. Richarlison, Xavi Simons gets on the board. I
I
don't
think
know.
they needed this one. I think Hoove needed this one for his mental health. So I'm almost happy that they got this win because I do think Hoover would have gone into a dark depression if they would have lost this game.
Yeah, you could say that, but I think, I don't even know who they play next week, nor do I care, but I think they'll be going right back into that
No,
next week.
I agree, but like you got to sprinkle in a win every once in a while, and like I don't think they've
You
had one
do.
in a little bit.
Yeah, you do. But yeah, I guess good for him. He's fighting for 10th or 11th place right now, so every win is needed for sure to not get relegated. And speaking of also being dog shit, Leeds bagging 3 goals in back-to-back games.
Against Chelsea and Liverpool is actually kind of insane.
Dude. And again, no Mo Salah start. Szoboszlai still at the right wing. We see a difference in goals scored though when Ekitike starts over
Yes,
Isak.
I think I think it's very clear who the better striker is between the two of them at the moment.
I think so too.
Do we want to get into it? Because I kind of want to get into
Yeah,
it.
dude, go on your rant. So I know that we have Liverpool friends that are, you know, Salah's done, Slot's done, who's right, who's wrong, all this girly drama going on at Liverpool. I think Nikki has a special take on the situation over there, the shambles that is Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah, and for the listeners who don't fully know, basically what's happening is Liverpool's legend and honestly Premier League legend, I'm not scared to say that, right winger Mo Salah hasn't been in great form this season by any means, and I think that is very clear and obvious to not only Liverpool supporters but anyone who's watching Liverpool play at the moment. And he hasn't obviously been playing the last 3 games and hasn't been even subbed on. And Mo came out to the media and pretty much stated that he was super upset with this and doesn't understand why, and that his relationship with his coach has gone south and he doesn't understand why he's not getting playing time. And obviously, being a professional footballer is something that I've never experienced or anyone on this podcast has ever experienced, where you're playing for your livelihood and to pay for the roof over your head. But as someone who's played in a team competitive sport with a coach, um, I don't think you should ever talk like that about a coach. I think that is a private conversation that needs to be had, and I think it is very cowardly for him to take the approach that he did with this. Obviously, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but me personally, I think that is very low of Mo. I also think, if I'm being completely honest, and I think it's well known that by no means are we Mo supporters on this podcast. I think it shows a lot in the type of person and player he is. I don't think he's really confident in his abilities, and he's kind of been on some teams of late that have set him up for success. And I don't think he's kind of had to use his own talent to pave his own way. And so now that it's kind of being on him and expected of him, I think he's pulling excuses out. When in reality, I think he just needs to take a look in the mirror and put his head down and start training a little bit more so he can bag some goals like he used to. Because I think it's just a bunch of excuses. I hate that that's the way it is, but I also, obviously, we're not in those meetings. We're not knowing what's going on behind the scenes, and I could be completely wrong, and it could be something absolutely awful that's going. But based on the information that I have and what is kind of being presented in social medias, I personally think Mo is in the wrong here. I think Slot and the manager and Liverpool as a club has every right to bench whoever they want at any time. Like I think no matter what, you could have bagged 3 goals the day before, but if your attitude towards the team or your training the week before like is poor, like a coach has the right to sit you. So like the fact that he's coming out and pretty much complaining and whining to the media, I think shows a lot about his character. And sorry, that's my rant.
Crazy. What do you guys think that are listening? Is Nicky in the right?
Well, I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of slack for that one because I know Liverpool fans are very much Slot out. And I don't think they're wrong in that. I think Slot should go out as well. I'm a little
Just
indifferent
get them
on that.
both out?
But I think I'm like almost separating them. Like if I'm judging Slot on his managerial career at Liverpool and what he's done in the last couple of months, I think there's argument that he should be sacked, regardless of this whole Mo Salah incident that's happening. I think this incident, Slot is in the right, and that Mo Salah is in the wrong and is showing a lot. And I don't blame Liverpool and Slot for having meetings and possibly getting rid of him, because I think that shows so much of Mo Salah that when he's thrown some adversity, he would rather whine and complain instead of trying to figure it out.
It's the ego, man. He's yeah, and I think we've seen it with other teams, but I mentioned it in the group over the weekend that it would have been, it would have been interesting to see how much different fans would have viewed him, both Liverpool fans and otherwise, if he had just left in the summer and gone to Saudi or wherever. And
I hate to say this, but I've seen it before. When he was at Chelsea, we brought in a man by the name of Hazard who absolutely lit up our side, and he fell into a shell, and we never heard from him again. And he went to Liverpool because he couldn't face adversity, and he didn't want the challenge, and decided to leave. Like I kind of knew this for a long time that's kind of who Mo Salah was, and I hate to say it, and not shocked by this reaction that he's having.
well, poor me, Liverpool ties Leeds United 3-3, moves further down in the table. I think they're at 10th or 11th, right there with the Tottenham Hotspurs, and we move. We'll see if Arne Slot makes it to Christmas.
We shall see.
We'll see if Mo Salah's gone in January.
I think Mo's gone. I for sure do. I think it's because that like the way it's being handled. I say that and I have no idea because how they handled the Isak situation was horrendous. So like they could handle it the same way. And honestly, the whole Salah and Virgil, yeah, it could. I'm so wrong. It could.
I would love for it to just continue.
Yeah.
And distract the team from actually playing the sport.
Think it could be their excuse. Like when they finish 11th this year, they're gonna be like, "Well, yeah, we had the beef between Salah and Slot."
Well, we all know that they are more than capable of doing something about it very quickly, and including and not including the media in specific bits and pieces to make it seem like not a big deal. So, yeah, I guess Slot or the front office might just be trying to cover their ass, but they're in shambles at the moment. So, us losing to them at the beginning of the season looks worse and worse as this season goes on for them. But moving on to the last and definitely not the game of the week, Manchester United throttled Wolves today, December 8th. 4-1. Mason Mount scores his third goal of the season, and per Dobes' request now has more goals in the league this year than Mr. Cole Palmer.
Yeah, he's played triple the amount of matches, but hey.
Has he?
Yeah.
He's played 12, so yeah, a little over double. Still, more goals than Mr. Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, I had this game on for a little bit.
We paid $30 million for Mr. Chelsea. They paid $60 for Mason Mount. I think it was 70. I take it back.
I guess it doesn't matter if they're getting more production out of one than the other.
Yeah. Oh, we want to compare their entire times here because that's embarrassing.
No, I could care less.
I know you would.
But Yeah, I mean, this was a game that, similar to the West Ham game, United should have won 10 out of 10 times. And, yes, they did that. But
I'm gonna be honest, I completely forgot about this game. The only reason I was reminded is I went to go check on my results of my fantasy this over the weekend, and I woke up this morning and it was like, your game's not completed. And I'm like, what? Why? And then I saw that United still had a game. So I did not watch it whatsoever.
no, you're good. I did watch a little bit of it, and despite the formation being the same, I liked this lineup out of them more. I like Cunha up top versus Xerxes in the absence of Benjamin Sesko. I like Mason Mount on the left side. Um, yeah, I think
Looks like Bruno bald.
Bruno Bald, yeah, but it's Wolves, so
Yeah, Wolves
take
have
that with a grain of salt.
Yep.
But you were right earlier in saying this was definitely a reactionary game to their draw against West Ham last
I feel
week.
like we're gonna get a lot of that from United. Like if they ever have a bad game or they ever have a draw or something like that, I think the next game, if I'm a betting man, I might be throwing money on United.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the bet is when United draw or lose to a shit team, bet their money line.
I'm
Still
also
probably bet both teams to score the following game, but
Yeah. I also think it's funny. I'm pretty sure Dobes called the West Ham result. He was like, "Oh, chance for us to go top four." Um, smash,
West Ham double chance, whatever it was.
smash anything of us not winning.
Yeah. Yeah. The United way.
Ye-
Brutal. But they won nonetheless. Good for them. So happy for that group, and they get 4 points out of the games last week, and neither of them show up. So, maybe they just don't really care that much. I don't know. Maybe we'll see them next week. Maybe they only like showing up when they lose. But I think I've already talked way too much about United. So, with that being said, that wraps up episode 14 of season 5 of the Mecha of Banter podcast. Be on the lookout for a lot more World Cup chat as we continue to approach that. Again, Team USA, very favorable draw. In the group stage, can we figure out our starting 11 and can we make it out of the group this time? Stay tuned.
We also got a couple spicy Champions League games this week. I think City versus Real Madrid is on Wednesday.
Is that tomorrow?
Wednesday.
But
yeah,
Barca Frankfurt, Inter Liverpool looks juicy. Spurs Slavia Prague, that'll be a close one.
I was gonna say there's not as many spicy ones as normal, but I think the City Real
Not as many as that opening week, or I guess the week before. But yeah, Madrid, Man City, Arsenal has Club Brugge. We should roll. But all right, Nikki. Well done. Thanks everybody for listening this week, and don't forget to give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We post our weekly episode updates, so when we go live on Tuesday mornings.
Who's in the wrong? Slaughter, Salah. Let us know.
And until next week. Cheers.